Hot Snakes is a ferocious rock and roll band that originally hails from San Diego, California. After releasing 3 perfect punk rock albums between 1999 and 2004, Hot Snakes broke up in 2005, but began touring again in 2011. They also wrote some new songs together recently and are back with an absolutely incredible new record called Jericho Sirens, which is out via Sub Pop Records on March 19th, 2018. A few weeks ago, I had an extensive conversation with singer and guitarist Rick Froberg all about the band's new album, each and every song. We also talked about where the band went and why they're back. Sponsored by Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, and Planet of Sound locations in Ottawa and Toronto, this is the 383rd episode of Creative Control, featuring Rick Froberg of Hot Snakes, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Rick. How's it going?
It's very well. How are you?
I'm pretty well. I'm okay. Yeah, it's nice to speak with you again. Where in the world are you today?
I'm at home. I'm just at home doing interviews and doing my laundry upstairs.
That's good. Multitasking. Where is home these days?
I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn.
Oh, you're back in Brooklyn. I didn't know that. There you go. See, I just assumed you were.
I never really. I've gone a lot, but I don't. I've been living here for 20 years, so
okay.
I haven't moved anywhere.
Okay, cool. And Brooklyn, yeah. Brooklyn is it snowy? It's very snowy here. It's like crazy snowy.
No, it's clear. It's actually not that bad today. It's not warm, but it's I can't complain. It's February.
Okay. Okay. Well, as you know, I'm a tremendous fan of the band Hot Snakes, so I'm glad everything's back. And after the tour, I got to see some of the reanimation tour back in, what was that, 2012 was when it started. I think I saw that.
I want to say 2011 or 10. I don't even remember.
Yeah. I think the shows I saw were all in Calgary and Montreal and Toronto. I think in 2012, as I recall, and now there's a record. Just to catch people up and go back in time a little bit. If I recall, the band ended 2004, 2005. Why did the band Is that right? Am I right? Am I right about that?
I think 5.
Yeah, 2005. Yeah. So why did the band end initially? Is it something you can articulate at this point?
I think we just wanted to stop for a while, so we did. I remember Gar saying, I don't really feel like doing this right now at the moment. He had something else going on. I think everyone was like, we'll stop. So
okay.
we did.
Simple as that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any. There's no like dramatic backstory that I can give you that would make it more interesting. But that's bands stop, all of them. They should. So I mean, if you reach a point where you're getting kind of burned out on something, you should stop.
Yeah. And so similarly, when it returned in, I guess 5, 6, 7 years later or whatever it was, I guess we agreed it was around 6 years later. Again, natural thing? Was it just like, let's just do it again?
No, we were asked to play at an ATP by Les Avifaves, at an ATP in England, and it sounded like fun. It's not going to pay us good. So they asked. I'm kind of friends with some of those guys, and they asked me, and then I asked the rest of them, and everyone said, "Yeah, let's do that." So we did it, and it was really fun. And we realized we missed it, and we had a good time doing it.
Right. Okay. That's simple enough. Now, you, by my reckoning, you have played music with John Reese since you were basically both kids, and until Hot Snakes. I mean, Hot Snakes ended, and then Obit started, and then I think prior to that, most of the bands you were in featured John was a collaborator, right? Generally.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Any of the serious ones. I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that Hot Snakes reanimation tour ended,
was it called Was it called the Reanimation Tour?
No, David Yao called the Jesus Lizard thing the Reanimation Tour, and I can't stop saying it. What is it?
Okay. That's cool.
It's a reunion tour. He kept calling it the Reanimation Tour, and I just can't stop. I can't shake it.
That sounds cooler than Reunion Tour.
Yeah.
At least it's been less used.
Yeah, it's like zombies or something, I think he thought of it as, back to life. Right. So where I was, after that Hot Snake stuff ended for that time anyway, you were in a band called Obits, and then you left Obits, and then you and John started playing together again in Drive Like Jehu, and it strikes me that, you and John have each spoken really highly of each other in the press to me in the past. Did the experience of playing in Obits and then in Hot Snakes and Drive Like Jehu again, did all of that illuminate anything particularly special about your dynamic with John?
Probably. I don't know how. I mean, my admiration for John or my friendship with John hadn't really diminished or anything like that. I was in a different band, but it wasn't because the heck with this guy. It was just because I don't know. I just wanted to start a band with my friends here, so that's what we did.
Yeah.
As far as it's nice to work with them, and having been in a different band for a while, and he was in Night Marchers and doing all these other things. Is once we come back to this, we bring those other things with us that we learned or got into doing in the other bands. So that's it. I think it's good that way.
Is there a kind of, I mean, I'm applying kind of external observations to this relationship, and I know it's a personal one, but is it sort of effortlessness? Is there an effortlessness to your getting together and playing? Like, does it just feel like home, so to speak?
We're just friends like anybody else is friends. I mean, we like to be in bands together, I guess. I mean, we kind of have the same taste and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly, but we both think we like this kind of music. I mean, at least making it. We think there's a kind of a lack of it, or a lack of the things that we like out there to go see and hear. So we, I guess, are trying to fill that void, just kind of doing it ourselves. I don't know if it's really exactly, it doesn't really come out exactly like, the things you listen to or that you would like to hear. It comes out you, but anyway.
Yeah. No. I hear you.
It's just a relationship like any other relationship. If you have friends you collaborate with and you like it, it works good, then you might as well keep doing it. Why not?
But I'm sure you know of bands that are doing it still because it's like a business. They have less of a social dynamic. They just keep doing it because they kind of have to. But that's not the case with you guys. You guys are doing it because you're buds, right?
Sure, but I mean, if we were just buds, I mean, I'm just buds with a lot of people. So there's definitely an art element to that, not just a buds buddy road trip. Let's go hang out kind of thing. If it's certainly we have some of the same objectives, so. Or we both like the same thing. We both like playing rock and roll, and happy to play with other people. Happy to play with John.
Yeah. No, sure. I think the point of the question is, does it come easier playing with John than it might playing with other people?
Well, it comes easier with John because John's really, really good at what he does, as well as Jason and Gar and Mario. These people are all, to me, amazing. So it does come easier, yeah, in that sense. I mean, they're just John's the best, I think.
Yeah. Now, over the years, since you guys brought those bands on the road, I've asked you and John questions about writing new Hot Snakes or Drive Like Jehu songs, and the answers from both of you were usually, I don't know, who knows, we'll see, we don't know. I'm just curious, was it more than uncertainty? Were you guys ever apprehensive to actually write new Hot Snake songs for any reason?
No, I mean, it's just like once you do that, you're opening up the whole can of worms, and you have to, if you're going to write the songs, you have to go play them. you should put a record out, you should do all these things, and that's a commitment, and it means you're going to be working on that for a while. So that's what happened. So it just takes a while to get that all organized, and everybody had a loose ends to sew up, and musical and personal and all those things. So that's why it took as long as it did for us to actually make a record. I mean, the record's been done for a while. It also takes a long time to come out. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Now, in terms of these, where these Jericho Sirens songs came from, did any of this material start to come into fruition while you were doing these, the reunion tours, or was it all stuff you worked on, got together and worked on once all that touring was done?
No, it didn't start until after that. We just decided to do it, and we got together and just focused on that. We didn't write songs during sound check when we were playing on the reunion tour, or the reanimation tour. Sorry.
Have you grown fond of this reanimation? It's good.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
I like it too. Yeah.
That guy's good.
The band, as far as I know, the band initially began with music that John and Jason were sort of jamming on together, and then Hot Snakes emerged out of that at some point. I'm curious, how did the writing work for these new songs? I know in the past John has come up with guitar parts and kind of brought them to people. Did that happen again? Was the music kind of stemming from John in some ways?
I think initially I just sort of flew out there and played with John. We just kind of wrote some things or whatever, and we all got together in Philadelphia, I think, and we decided that we were not just going to get together, but we were going to actually record some songs. So we made sure that we would get together, get at least enough songs to go and record the next couple of days. We just did it. We just hit it.
So it was primarily you and John that initialized these songs?
It's everybody. I mean, you have to have everybody together, and you can have a part or something like that, and you try it out, and it doesn't work that good.
Right.
So it's really pretty much a group thing.
Okay. Now, one of the other unique things about this record is that, at least based on the publicity photos I've seen, it would seem that both drummers, the original drummer Jason and the person who replaced him, Mario, they both seem to be involved in the record, at least in the promotional cycle, which is interesting in itself. Are they both actually on the record?
They both are, yes.
Huh. That's pretty interesting to me. Like, how did that work? Did they each pick their own songs? Or do they play on some songs together? Yeah. How did that work?
They play separately on different songs. And some of the songs were written with Mario, and some were written with Jason. I think there's 3 on the record with Mario and 7 with Jason. Okay.
Well, I mean, I know they both, spent time in the band. Was having them both involved in the new record sort of a historical decision? Was it just, they were both in the band? It's as simple as that?
They both wanted to play, and so after the initial reunion tour, which they both played on their own, the records that they played on, or the songs that they played on, and we decided to make an actual record, another record. They were both welcome to join in. I mean, we couldn't really say, oh, well, you can play and you can't. So, and they're both, fantastic drummers. So I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. Like, it's unusual, but it's also really nice. Like, I can't think of too many bands where they, different members have come and gone. I can't think of too many examples where all of the members are involved in on an album or on a reunion tour. I think that's unusual in some ways.
I can't think of too many examples of that either. And I think that initially it's like, well, it seems kind of strange, but we've toured that way. We just got done touring that way, and it worked out fine. Mario's gone quite a bit, so he's involved with a few of the things. So he kind of comes when he can, and it seems to be working out so far. And I mean, it's great to play with both of them. They're both amazing. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, just to make another musical observation, one thing that I noticed on this record, and it's occurred, I think, throughout the band's catalog in some ways, but it's kind of like I think of it as the Hot Snakes organ. It's it's a very specific sound. It's usually 3 or 4 notes, and I believe it occurs on 2 songs on the new album.
yeah, there's definitely keyboards on there. I think, gosh, I don't know. I think it's on all of them.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I was trying to remember.
It might be a little bit more, I don't know, a little more in the front in like the first record. But I think that all of them have a bit of keys on there.
Okay. All right. I have to take your word for it. I don't remember, but
I kind of don't either.
I noticed it, and it reminded me of the first couple records. But you're probably right. And who would know better than you? You're in the band, so it's probably on all the records.
I think it is.
Yeah,
but I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure though.
Yeah. And who is that? John? Who plays that keyboard?
John does. He plays the keyboard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool sound, and I associate it with the band somehow. It's like he does like very minor things. It seems not minor chords, but like just like it's like a haunting thing.
Yeah, it's a texture. You know, it has a little bit of atmosphere to things. So got to get that where you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, I want to get into the album Jericho Sirens, the music and whatnot, but let's actually begin with the cover art, which seems to be a photograph of Gar Wood from Hot Snakes surfing. First of all, who took this? It's a remarkable photo. Who took this photo?
A gentleman named Scott Weiner. That's Winer, Scott. He's a surf photographer, and Gar was surfing in some exotic place, like Fiji or something like that. There's a backstory on that, but he was surfing, and this guy happened to take pictures just out there in the water, and said he would, I don't know if he'd just sell them to people or how he would do it, but I was searching for a cover idea. You know, as usually I do some sort of drawing or illustration or design or something like that. And I was kind of coming up kind of blank, wasn't really feeling anything. And I, at some point before I'd seen that photo, I was like, do you have any more of those photos, Gar? And he's like, yeah, I got a bunch of them. And he sent the photo to me, and I saw the photo. I'm like, this is amazing. So I thought it'd be I mean, it's Gar. That's a pretty amazing wave. And it's like, that's a wave that would mess you up if you make a mistake. So I just thought it was a really cool, really intense image. I like waves. I put waves on Obits records and waves on Hot Snakes records, and I like waves. I thought it was an amazing picture, and it's Gar, you know, and he's just Gar shredding the gnar. So it's just too good, and it's also super California looking cover, which I like.
Do you surf?
Absolutely not. No.
Do you
fear? I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can't go surfing in the East River or something. Probably that would be weird.
You can go surfing in the Rockaways and stuff like that. But like, man, it doesn't look like it's that great to me. The water's all brown, and it's just not. You know, like if you live in California, and that's something else. It's even something more. It's even something else. You're in Fiji or in Hawaii or something. But yeah, I don't surf. No, I'm afraid of sharks and drowning.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if you were afraid of the water. I am actually afraid of the water, and I mean, just so people who don't know understand, you used to live in California, so you know, did you spend a lot of time in the water? Did you go surfing at any point? Did you spend time at the beach and all that kind of stuff?
I spent a lot of time in the water. I didn't. Surfing is like a cased thing. It's like socias and greasers and jocks and mods or whatever it is. It's kind of it's something we do. You're just sort of almost born into it, and I didn't really. have the I'm a slight person. I have a slight of stature. I never was very the surfer type, so I never really got into it that much. I did used to race BMX bikes though.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I was back to the artwork. This is something of a departure for you in that, you know, you're a very talented graphic illustrator. Normally, Hot Snakes Records have featured your illustrations. This is a photograph. This is, like I say, something of a departure. Was that difficult for you to come to this conclusion? Like you mentioned, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a solid idea, and then I saw this photograph. Was that a difficult conclusion to reach, that, I'm not going to be drawing something for the next Hot Snakes record?
Not really. I mean, the last Hot Snakes record is a live one, and it's a photo I took, and it's two photos I took. And the one in the back is of Gar, and it's an album. So it's not that much of a departure. The Thunder Down Under one, that probably not many people have seen. But that one is pretty much the same kind of thing. I didn't want it to look the same. I wanted it to look a different way. And plus, it's just like, it was a good image, so I just want it to be a good image, and I want it to look like it's going to be a good record. So I thought that was a cool image.
Yeah. No, well, it is.
I still do all the other artwork. You know, I still designed it, and I still blah, blah, blah. So whatever.
Okay, I want to ask you about each of the songs on Jericho Sirens, and I want to begin with the first one, I Need a Doctor. I have come to realize recently that I have been going through some medical anxiety. That's just something I've observed and recognized in myself. And then I heard this song when I was going through some things, and I wondered if maybe that occurred to you. Or do you have issues with sort of medical anxiety, things to do with your health? Are you concerned about that on a somewhat regular basis?
Well, I think it's the opposite with that song, because it's about needing a doctor. not I'm scared of the doctor. It's different. But if your point is like, do I have anxiety about going to? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely don't like going to the doctor or the dentist or even getting out of bed. You know, I don't I don't want to go. I don't want to go those places. Those places are horrible places. They're worse than funeral homes.
Yeah, and when I hear the song, it does seem like you're kind of cataloging or mentioning all, like a bunch of reasons why someone would feel compelled to finally go to the doctor, but there's also within that, you know, an expression of like, I don't want to go to the doctor. So I don't know, it kind of feels like it's a funny way of dealing with that tension between I think I have to go to the doctor but I don't want to go to the doctor maybe.
No, I would say it's more that not that I want to avoid, that I need to go to the doctor. It's not a matter of avoidance at the point. I think from that point of view of the singer, that it's an option. You know?
No choice.
No, sometimes there's no choice. I mean, unless the choice is like you can't go because you can't afford to, or it's not available to you. But I don't want to analyze that too much, you know. No,
it's just something I related to, so I wanted your insights on it.
I don't know. I think it's like a lot of it. I mean, that's just like a feeling that I don't know. I don't know if I care about people relating to it. It's just a feeling that, just an exasperating feeling, and it just came to mind. It was a song that demanded an exasperating feeling anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that comes through.
You heard it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to move on to the second song on the record. It's called Candid Cameras. this song, it's called Candid Camera, so it reminded me of the old TV show Candid Camera, which is a bit before my time, but if I understand things correctly, it was a TV show where normal people would be doing normal things, but maybe because they were unaware that there was a camera present in their presence, they would do things that would make them look foolish, or it would be embarrassing for them. And if I recall correctly, that was the premise of the show. What does
isn't that horrible? What a horrible show! Like they just put it's just like inspiring someone in their one of their lowest of moments, and then play it back to them in front of a live audience or whatever. What a horrible thing.
It was horrible. Now that you mention it, I guess I never really thought of it that way. But you're very right. I mean, it was always presented as a comedy show. Yeah, I never laughed. I just felt sorry for them, and it was just the kind of thing. It was TV, it's on. My parents are watching it or whatever. I'm a kid, but I never really thought that kind of humor was funny. I never thought that making people feel awkward and bad and ashamed is funny. For some reason, that's not funny to me. I think people falling down stairs and stuff like that is funny, but it's not like the same as making them like sort of catching them in their lowest moment of their stupidity or whatever. I don't know. That's really fascinating to me, because when we get to the next song, which is called "Why Don't It Sink In," and I don't want to go there yet, but I did make a note for that song because I thought it was dealing with obliviousness, and I feel like there's a lot of comedy that revels in that notion of people being like, look how oblivious this person is to their own foolishness. Like a show like Curb Your Enthusiasm does that a lot. Like, it's awkward, and it's a lot about, can you believe how oblivious this type of person must be to their own behavior? And I feel like there's a lot of comedy that kind of revels in that obliviousness and awkwardness.
Right, but that's comedy. That's not real people like being set up on the fly. That's different. That show is funny. He's funny. But I don't think it's the same thing, because it's acting. It's a show. It's not the same to me as I mean, it's not. There's exceptions for sure, but yeah.
Just this notion of being embarrassed, like being embarrassed and against your will, that you find that distasteful, obviously.
Sure, but that's not the point of the song.
Right.
It's what is the point of the song?
Well,
I don't know if that song doesn't even have a point. And it's not one that I could. The problem with lyric questions is it's like, well, if you wanted to say these things, you just come out and say them. But if you want to allude to things or play with things, then it's kind of like you don't want to like over-explain them, or else you just end up saying, first of all, the wrong thing. Lyrics are high school poetry. They're stupid. They're what they are. They're not even meant to be. They're not meant to be read or even really understood. This sort of felt. I think.
Yeah, and when I feel this song, I just can't help but think of our sort of age of surveillance. Right, there's a siren going by right now, which highlights the authoritarian nature of what I was going to ask about. But
no, that's an ambulance.
Oh, it's an ambulance. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's a loud one.
There's different ones. Yeah, he's coming here. Yeah, I didn't need a doctor. Yeah, he just wrote right past.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I hear what you're saying about the lyrics, but it did stick out to me that maybe it might have something to do with this age of surveillance. That's all. I just was curious if you were making a comment on that.
Maybe more of a comment on, if any comment, just on the age of like people walking around and looking at the phones all the time. I don't know, or being able to, or recording everything in the moment it happens, as opposed to like just experiencing it and letting it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe something to do with that too.
Yeah.
I don't
okay.
know.
I already mentioned the song "Why Don't It Sink In," and it's gotten to me on a level of I'm trying to contemplate self-awareness more and be aware of how my actions impact other people, like not to be oblivious about how other people are impacted by what it is I say and do. Is that something that resonates with you? Is that something you ever contemplate for yourself?
I think that song is more, I think I understand what you're saying, but I think that song is more about something that should be really, really obvious to you, that's really, really obvious, really doesn't seem to be, or whatever, but it's really obvious to everyone else. And it just doesn't seem to sink in.
Okay. I do think that a major problem for us all still is when we leave our homes and have to interact with each other outside of the security of our homes. We still have issues kind of working stuff out. And like, you can have road rage or someone cuts in front of you at the grocery store, and it's just like a people problem. It's like we don't exactly get along, and we're kind of oblivious to that somehow.
I think that's completely true, but that, again, probably isn't the point of the song.
Sure, no, I appreciate that. I just wonder if that's the kind of thing that you contemplate generally, beyond the song. Is that something you ever think about?
Yeah, I think there's to quote I think it's the drummer for Gigi Allen's band and the Hated in the Nation thing, where somebody asked, what is this whole thing about? And he leans into the guy, it's kind of quiet, and he's like, I think it's just about a certain lack of sweetness in the world,
Yeah.
And it's like that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Let's move on to the next song. It's called 6-Wave Hold Down. You a question because I don't know anything about surfing, and I thought I did some like internet research, and I thought a 2-wave hold down was about the most complicated kind of hold down. So I don't even know if a 6-wave hold down is possible. Is a 6-wave hold down realistic? And has anyone ever accomplished this? Can it be done?
Sure, people have. I think that as sort of a fan of surfing, I mean, you see people on these enormous waves. Waves that be towed into by a jet ski, and they are if they come down on you. I mean, if you survive that, I mean, like the 60-foot wave coming down and just crushing you. It's like it's insane. And then what happens after that? Well, there's another set behind that, and they're going to keep coming, and so somehow you have to get out of that situation, and it's hard to get a jet ski in there because it basically turns into bubbles, and there's nothing for the jet ski to sort of jet through. It's just air. So it's really hard to get somebody out of that situation. And these people, these surfer people, crazy people, learn to hold the breath for a long time and learn to sort of survive that and just do it all the time or often enough. And I thought that was just a fascinating thing. And having since I have been in the water a lot. And there was one time when I got held down for a long time because I got sucked out over this reef, and I was just got messed up.
So you were saying earlier that you are afraid of the water, yet you are enamored of the waves. The waves impress you, and then within that surfing, I just am curious: what is it about surfing that impresses you so much? Is it the kind of notion of not human ingenuity, but just the notion that humans have that I'm gonna conquer that wave? Does that impress you? Is that what it is?
Sure, there's that, but I think I just like the waves themselves, and I like the surfing part because it gives waves scale, and it makes you understand what it really is, and it's incredible to me. I don't know. Just that.
You know, the surfer people, they tend to think that surfing is a way of life. I think you were saying this earlier, right? It's like a way of life.
I think it's your thing or it's not. I mean, it's something that it definitely. I mean, you could get into this on whatever level you want. I'm sure. Oh, sorry, my roommate's cutting a hole in the ceiling.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think it's. I think you can. I know people. I know surfers. I know people who surf. There's a difference, but it's it's something you really get into. But like I said, I'm not really coming at it from the perspective of a surfer. I'm coming at it more probably from a perspective of somebody who's terrified of being drowned and stuff, drowned and crushed and broken to pieces on a reef in such a way. I think that's truly the stuff of horror movies. Yeah,
there's a kind of fragility involved in surfing that maybe needs to be considered.
Yeah, you. That'd be you and your body, your board.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the next song. It's Jericho Sirens, the title track. This song fascinates me for a few different reasons. Among them, my understanding is that Jericho Siren or Jericho Horn was a kind of like a trumpet that would that they put on Stuka planes, a German dive bomber which was used during World War II. Is that right? Do I have that right? Is that your understanding?
Yeah, they were there to, I don't know. I think they stopped using it at one point because, having looked at it a little bit, people could hear them coming from too far away, and I don't think they could actually control them. I think it was on the whole time. It was like, but it's a terrifying sound. It was designed to terrify people before they started dropping the bomb on them. Like if you look at Guernica, or like the painting, the famous Picasso painting of Guernica being bombed by, that's the Germans bombing them, and they're bombing them with, they're using the sirens, and it causes that kind of horrible panic that your enemy wants you to have.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. Why did this information interest you at this point in your life? Did you come across it recently or something?
I think it's more about the sort of metaphor. A personal metaphor to me. It reminds me of having tinnitus.
Oh.
And the idea was that you had tinnitus so bad that somebody actually put their head up to your ear and hear it. And it also, it's I think that just panic is the thing of is the watchword of the day. Everyone's panicking. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone thinks the end is nigh. So it's kind of a mix of those things. You say everyone. Does that include you? No, but I feel I definitely feel. I feel like there's a certain feeling of doom, but that's who knows. I think it's just people looking at their phones too much, including me, and stuff like that, and not actually looking at things around them, like, life in general.
Yeah, it's creating a kind of internal anxiety.
Yeah, it's a collective anxiety.
Yeah, I think we're all suffering through that for sure. I have more questions about the song, but just given our time, I'm gonna move us along here to the next song, a cheery little number called Death Camp Fantasy.
That's, sort of the same kind of thing as the last one, just kind of like a lot of people are, I think, people fantasize about the end of the world, just like people love these movies where, the world is destroyed by an asteroid or an earthquake or a wave or a volcano or a virus, you name it. I mean, it's just sort of, I think it's people are concocting their own sort of scenarios and are dedicated to them in a strange way.
Yeah. It's we've been talking about the individual. At one point, we were talking about the collective, and there's a really interesting moment on this song where you say, "Have I been preyed upon?" And then at one point you say, "Everyone," and then there's like a gang vocal where everyone joins you in this question, "Have I been preyed upon?" Which is a really interesting question to have to ask ourselves at this point. Have we been preyed upon?
Well, I think a lot of people feel they have been preyed upon, and maybe they're right, maybe they have been, and maybe we all have been on some level. I'm sure everyone feels like that. But the question is, does that justify death camps and things like that? Whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we're entering a realm of the record that is dark. Obviously, after Death Camp Fantasy, it starts to feel a bit dark, and then the next song kind of adds to that darkness for me. It's called Having Another. At the end of Having Another, there's this line, "I ain't your escort back to the grave," which is a fascinating thing to say, and I wonder if it's about perceptions of death, maybe, or how one person's relationship with death might be different than yours or the narrator of this song or something.
No, I think it's just me imagining a person who actually drinks more than me, who I would who I wouldn't bother to go down the toilet with. It's like, it's I don't know. It's probably a song to myself.
How are you doing health-wise these days, Rick, if I might ask?
Oh, I'm here. I'm ambulatory, upright. I'm good.
You don't need a doctor currently.
Not in the moment. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Well, we move on to the next bright and cheery song, Death Doula. I'm very intrigued by the notion of a death doula. I'd never heard of this. I've heard of a birth doula. Is there such a thing as a death doula?
I never knew about the birth doula. I only heard about the death doula because a friend of mine became one. And, well, she was really patting herself on the back because she was, I'm experiencing death and the passing of these people, and it's so beautiful, and they love me so much. And I was just thinking, what if they don't? I don't know, yeah, I didn't know about the birth doula. I only knew about the death doula, and I just thought it sounded funny.
Yeah, no, it is funny to me, but it occurs to me as we're speaking that if I think back on your various bands and the things you've written about, often you've covered medical stuff or medical institutions, medical practices on some level. We've talked about that already on this record. Do you have a particularly strong stance on, the medical establishment or medical practices, like this notion of a death doula helping someone with the end of their life is funny, but is there an edge there? Like, is there a pointed perspective you're trying to convey?
It's just a coincidence because, like I said, I know someone, there's a good friend of mine who was doing it. And I like the way the words death doula sounded, so I sort of just went from there.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that same critical eye that you've shone on something like a death doula feeds into the next song, Psychoactive. Because your country is so strange right now, I've been watching more CNN, which is not good. The news is never good. And I was just in a hotel room recently for 4 days, so I just had CNN on in the background. And what really, again, the news is bad, and that's expected, but what really struck me is that all the commercials are for drugs, and they're about how you feel bad and you need to take drugs, and the drugs all have these ridiculous side effects. And those are
actually my favorite commercials. They're hearing they call it anal discharge or whatever. The side effects are worse than the disease.
Yeah.
That song. No, it was not about the pharmaceutical. That's about the sort of more of the sort of again, coming from friends who are really into sort of the psychedelic warrior thing, where they're people taking DMT and called ayahuasca, things like that, and there's a kind of culty mentality around it, and I have friends who have this mentality, and they're fun to talk to, and it's interesting, but it's just something people get into, almost like they get into yoga or something like that, and all the attendant gurus and things like that come along with it, and all the podcasts and all the TED Talks and all this stuff or whatever about expansion of your mind. And, that stuff is, and I have to say all that stuff just totally terrifies me. I like taking some drug that just makes you disappear for whatever, it's even 50 minutes and makes you lose all track of time, and it just sounds sketchy to me.
I mean, you say you're terrified of it. Is that based on your own personal experience? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
I've taken psychedelic drugs before, like, mushrooms and acid and things like that, but like DMT and ayahuasca, where, ayahuasca is this whole thing where you have to go, you have like a shaman, and you have to go and have a meeting first and discuss it, and you have to have a certain diet, and you show up this thing, they make this tea out of God knows what, different herbs and spices from Brazil or Peru or something like that, and then you drink this tea and you throw up and shit on yourself, and then you go on this whole psychedelic journey, which can be completely terrifying or completely marvelous or a combination of all these things. And I have, I respect the bravery of these people who do this stuff and their dedication to whatever it is. But it just sounds kind of terrifying to me, and like kind of maybe high risk, low reward kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm asking you these questions. I know you're deferring here and there, and I appreciate the time you're putting into these answers, because I do think of you as a really subtle, observational songwriter. Like, that appeals to me. I kind of know what you're talking about, and I like that I only kind of know, but I do think you're talking. I think there's bigger picture stuff going on.
It's going to become more mainstream, what I'm talking about, very soon, and you're going to hear more and more about it. And it's something that's, people are sort of, I think people are I don't know if it's escapist necessarily. I don't know if I'd call it that. It's not. That's sort of not fair. But it is a way to sort of go in instead of going out into the world, which seems like just like, a mess to people.
Yeah.
And that there must be more to life and all that than what's been made available to us through whatever conventional channels, religion, politics, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's sort of what that was coming from.
Okay. Let's move on to the final song on the album. It's called "Death of a Sportsman." My take on this song, "Death of a Sportsman," is that it seems like almost like a narrative, it's like a story. Is it based on an actual story in any way?
Kinda, yeah. I was kind of like there's like a little free. I had to write some lyrics for this song because we didn't have any, and I found this. There's like a little free library that sometimes, I don't know if they have these in Toronto or wherever or Guelph or whatever. They put it could be like a little glass box, a little roof on it. Looks kind of like a little, like a little dollhouse or something.
Yeah. Like everyone in the neighborhood has one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. In Canada, I'm sure that's great. Anyway, there was one close to the studio, and I just walked over and I was like, let's see what's in here. And I found one that was basically, I don't know, a book from the sort of maybe the turn of the century, the 19th century. I'm not sure about. Maybe later than that, early 20th century. Sort of imperial Brit thing where, I don't know, some guy who went around to different villages in different parts of India to kill man-eating tigers because there's a real problem, apparently. And I just I read a little bit of it and I was like, God, what an asshole this guy is. And
this is
where it comes from.
This is the story about the tiger that followed the guy? He tracked him, right? The tiger tracked him.
No, I think it's.
Oh, it's a different one.
Yeah, well, it's not. You mean a story that you know?
Yeah, there's a famous book. I think it might have been written by a Canadian actually, and it's like it's about a guy. it's like a guy, he finds a tiger in a village and he's hunting him, and then it changes. Like the tiger starts tracking him.
No, this is about a guy. This is a work of nonfiction, and he's just basically documenting all the different tigers he's killed in all the different places in India.
Oh.
And the process and how he did it and how bad the tiger was and how many children it ate and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe there was a problem. Maybe, there's tigers everywhere and do something about it. But
do you say that because there's no judgment of hunting in the song?
I don't know. I got to go to Africa once when I was about actually around the time Hot Snakes ended, and I got to see all these animals. Not tigers, obviously, because there aren't tigers in Africa, but I just felt there's a problem with people killing them for trophies, for, I don't know, boner medicine, for all kinds of things.
Right.
Meat, actually, too. Like, all kinds of things. And I it felt, having seen it in person, how amazing it is, and knowing that it's, disappearing every day, probably colored my impression of this guy who was going around killing tigers.
Yeah.
It's like, and a person that does that kind of thing in general. I mean, I know people who have to make money, trying to get out of the situation. So let's go get some ivory. Let's do this, whatever. That's awful.
Mm.
But at the same time, I'd be ashamed if these animals are all gone. They'd gone for such silly reasons.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of really interesting characters and ideas on Jericho Sirens. I think for what it's worth, I think the record's incredible. I can't stop listening to it. I'm just so glad you guys are back. I know you have tour dates going right now, and there's some for the foreseeable future. There's a bunch of tour dates, but beyond that, do you have plans to talk about what's going on with Hot Snakes for the rest of the year at least?
I think we're gonna be touring all year, so it's just they're gonna start coming out, the dates and stuff. We'll be gone. I mean, yeah. we signed up for it, so.
I assume you're excited that, as someone who's gotten to speak with you a bunch, Rick, and gets to talk to you about your work, it's sometimes, I have to admit, it's sometimes hard to tell when you're excited about stuff, but and that leads me to, we're all excited. The fans of the band are excited. Are you particularly stoked that Hot Snakes are back? I
like it a lot, but I try to take things one day at a time and be realistic about things. It's like, anything can happen in these situations, and just, enjoy it in the moment, just like you enjoy your day in the moment. That's kind of how I think about it. Obviously you have to plan for it and try to make it as best as it can be, and blah blah blah. But I'm a low key person. I don't know.
You are, and I appreciate that too. And I don't mean to make you uncomfortable, but suffice to say, I think I hope people are stoked, and I'm among them. So it's great. Is there one song from Jericho Sirens that you might choose for us to play for people right now in its entirety?
Sure. Play Death Doula. I don't think anyone's heard much of that. So.
Okay, Death Doula, and that's just because of your friend is a Death Doula. I think we established that. That's the one. All right.
Well, you're trying to live this with metaphor and make it cooler than just That's the problem with answering questions about lyrics. You're just like, oh well, no, still breaking.
No, I think you were vague enough. I hope people are intrigued by what you said, and whatever. Who cares? We'll just play it. We'll play Death Doula. This is Death Doula by Hot Snakes. Rick, thank you for being back on the show, and best of luck with everything.
Okay, man. Talk to you soon.
Replaced. Yeah.
Thanks again to Rick Froberg of Hot Snakes for being on this, the 383rd episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and available on all iOS and Android platforms and also on audioboom.com. I don't know if you can tell, Hot Snakes mean a lot to me, and if you don't know, or if you have never heard it, you might want to know that back in 2015, I actually made a documentary about Drive Like Jehu, which is Rick's other band, one of his other bands. And it covers the whole spectrum of Drive Like Jehu into Hot Snakes. It's episode, I think it's episode 217. Let me just look that up. I had it up here. I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. Episode, 217. Do You Compute? The Story of Drive Like Jehu, October 8th, 2015, the website is telling me. So if you haven't heard that, give yourself a couple hours and listen to that. I think it's the best thing I've ever made. I honestly believe that, so check it out. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah. If you can't find an episode of the show that you're looking for, if you want to learn more about me or sign up for my regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com, vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control with Vish Khanna on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Vish Creative with a K or Vish Khanna. You can follow me there as well. Listen to a radio show version of Creative Control on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time around the world on CFRU.ca or on an actual radio at 93.3 FM if you're in or near Guelph. Also, thanks again to everyone who has pledged to this show via the Patreon page we have. If you'd like to do so, it'd be really appreciated. Please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation and keep the podcast going. It's a modest effort. A modest pledge would be very helpful, so please consider doing that. I'd like to thank my sponsors again. Thanks again to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee, which are all in Guelph, Ontario. Go check them out. Also, Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. Wonderful donut place. One of the best, if I might say. And new sponsor, Planet of Sound. Stereo equipment, home theater equipment, vinyl records. Unbelievable place. They have locations in Ottawa and Toronto, and they are now sponsoring the show. So thanks to Planet of Sound. I'd like to thank all of you for listening to this show and reviewing it and rating it and downloading episodes of the show. Downloading episodes of the show is very huge, so thanks for doing that. And also for spreading the word about it. And that's all I have to say. I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye for now.